You've done this, haven't you?
Yeah, a couple times.
Hopefully the last one of the season. Oh, that's a good question.
Ever make it home
I didn't
on
really pay
time?
attention.
Did he make it to school the next day?
It's like I looked on Sunday night and I had
Getting there, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
my wife like, oh, I should.
Yeah, I graduated from
By the way.
I can see that for you. All right.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, Jennifer, you gotta get Jennifer.
like that whole bar.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have a computer, I'm a computer at home.
Click
I did. Okay, yeah. Yep. Go bigger, go.
Okay.
Well, I sent my daughter to now that she drives by herself, I sent her to the store to buy Diet Coke, and she comes home with mini cans. Like, what are those? Teaser.
Everybody good? Louis, you good?
Yes, sir.
Hi, by the way.
Hello.
All right. Let me hereby call the regular Board of Education meeting to order this January 13th at 7 p.m. Please silence or turn off all electronic devices. And could you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? We have a flag in the back of it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mrs. Reedland, could you please call roll?
I would love to. Bianchini,
Here.
Camardo,
Here.
Friedland, here, Grimpy,
Here.
Johnson, here, Pfister,
Here.
Ronstadt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, next up is the consent agenda. Looking over the consent agenda, are there any items that a member would like to remove and further discuss? Or is there a question of clarification? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion in a second to approve the consent agenda in its entirety, which includes the following. Excuse me, the Board of Education meeting minutes from December 9th, 2025, the personnel report, the OT job description, and actual payrolls, bills, and checks.
Moved. Second.
Moved by Pfister, second by Bianchini. Could you please call roll?
Friedland, yes. Johnson,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Grimpy,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
and Ronstadt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is RTEA comments. Bob, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. On behalf of the RTA Executive Committee and the entire membership, I'd like to thank the Board of Education and the administration for the excellent ongoing working relationship that we continue to have. And this relationship has really done us just numbers in the amazing negotiations that we've continued to have. We're really getting into compensation now. We don't have much left. Both of our lists are dwindling. And it's really exciting. It's great to be on such good terms with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you and your whole team. All right, next up is visitors' comments. At this time, I'd like to recognize any members of the audience who approach the board with their comment or question by completing a visitor comment card. Please do note that the board and administration typically does not respond, and if you wish for a response, please provide your name and number or email for a member of the Board of Education or administration to get back to you. Speakers are encouraged to limit their time for others to participate. A 3-minute time limit per speaker with an overall 60-minute maximum for visitors' comments per our current policy. And hearing none, we're going to jump right into board communications. Anybody have anything they would like to add?
I was able, and I feel like it's just ages ago because our last meeting was at the beginning of December, but we had the band and chorus concert for, I believe, the 7th and 8th grade, and then the mixed chorus, and it was delightful. Mr. Smith, we were able to see him right before this meeting with the jazz band, and they were there as well, and it was just a real, it was a treat to see everybody in the holiday concert. And then the only other thing that I can think of is the Winter Carnival. I was not able to volunteer time that day, but thank you to everybody and the staff, Mr. Hinkle, for your staff putting that together, and for all the volunteers, and for all the prize donations. You know, who knew that a bracelet making kit that was at home for years could then come back and be exciting. So yeah, so it was a delight, and I know the kids had a lot of fun.
Anybody else?
I'll go.
Please.
In addition to the band and chorus concert was lovely, and they were very talented. Really, some of those kids have only been playing a couple months. I attended the Indian Grove Chorus and Orchestra concert. Also delightful. Really got everybody in the holiday mood. Very large chorus, third, fourth, fifth graders, and I think it was the orchestra's fifth grader first show, lots of basses. It was really fun. Everyone had it very festive. I also had the opportunity to sit and listen and participate in 2 focus groups. So as part of the strategic planning, we're doing focus groups with community members, students, faculty, the staff. So the 2 I did were community members, so they're either former parents or they're just live in our community. We had I think we had 2 in the morning and then 6 or 7 in the evening session. So it was just a great opportunity to hear from people, invite people into the school, and I'm really excited to see the other focus groups and data that kind of goes into forming our next 5-year strategic plan. So thank you to the staff who organized and reached out, and it was a lot of work, but I'm glad we did it.
Anybody else? Okay. Moving on then to new business. First up is education services. Who's taking this one? Kyle and Tara, you guys are up first? Or? Okay. Time for the middle school update.
Okay. First, thank you all for inviting us to come and share kind of what's been going on at the middle school. Hope you enjoyed the little treat before from our jazz ensemble, very talented group of kids. I've actually, every time I hear them play that last song, I keep forgetting to ask Mr. Smith where he got that whistle. I have no reason to have one, but I don't know why I like it. Just to kind of kick off, to highlight a couple other groups this evening, maybe. There we go. You guys also had the pleasure of getting to listen to our very talented and unique steel drum band that had the opportunity to present to you all and a large group of people at III Conference. Really cool opportunity. I know Mr. Flowers said the kids were really excited and really enjoyed it. And then our athletics this fall was, I would consider, very successful. Both our boys and girls cross-country teams got to represent our school and represented us very well down at the state meet. And then in another facet, I had a number of former parents, current parents, employees reach out. District 214 shared a national merit list and list of students who had perfect or near perfect ACT scores. And looking through that, it was just peppered with former River Trails students. So even though they're no longer with us, still making us very, very proud. So wanted to highlight a few of those things. As you know, at the beginning of each year, the work that happens at the buildings revolve around and start at the district level. It's really a pleasure to work each year with our district administration and then with the principals at the other buildings to create a connected and educational experience for our students. Let me get it just right. Each year and throughout the year, we attend to a number of different academic and social emotional data through MAP, scores, class assessments, IAR, teacher and community survey data like Panorama and 5 Essentials. And we use a variety of that to input to plan our goals, implement meaningful actions, assess progress towards goals, and then reflect and revise to continuously improve throughout the year. So this past summer, speaking of reflecting, I was reflecting on all of the work that took place in the previous school year here at RTMS, and I somehow ended up going all the way back to my interview here, my first interview, almost 6 years ago. And so it sparked my curiosity, and I noticed that one of the questions I asked the team of teachers that was interviewing me was, what qualities or skills do you want students to have when they leave RTMS? So once I saw that, I was, again, curious and had to find the responses that they shared with me and was able to do so. I surprised myself with being able to find that information from 6 years ago. So once I found those, you can see their responses up here and kind of realize their responses are what we connect and work towards each day at the building to help our students get to where we want them to be once they leave RTMS. So along with trying to build off of those and the momentum from the work last year really was the starting point for our work this year. Student choice becomes a very important and valuable instrument once students get to middle school. We aim to allow for more opportunities for them to have access to both their academic and personal growth. So with this, we try to focus those opportunities less on what they are doing and more on what they are learning in a variety of different ways. A few of those in classrooms, teachers are intentional about providing opportunities for student dialogue, which is the main thing we are building on from last year. This is obviously a way for students to share their comprehension of the content in the classroom, but it also serves as an opportunity for them to build listening skills and empathy as well. This year, we've also begun to tap into finding meaningful writing opportunities across all classes. This allows students to practice organizing their thinking, reflecting on their learning, and build confidence along the way. Tara and I have actually gotten to see this writing take place in many different classrooms throughout the building, even in classrooms where you don't think writing really fits in at all. Here's a small example of this taking place in a math class. We were kind of reviewing it, and the teacher mentioned to me that the student goes, "Wait, isn't this just another way for us to show our work?" And so it's kind of funny to hear them make that connection. I also think this serves as a perfect example of a student not just doing a math problem, but learning to solve a problem in math, which is a big distinction. So to make all of this happen, RTMS, we value collaboration and teamwork. The staff has truly been engaged and challenged throughout the year with each other to explore different strategies and opportunities to meet students where they're at to foster their growth. I would say the most unique thing that's taken place this year is our Opening the Door initiative. And what that's looked like is in our building, staff have taken opportunities to allow other staff members in, as well as obviously go visit staff members' rooms for certain strategies or parts of a lesson, just to learn and build off of the skills that we have amongst each other. This started off going so well that we've also opened the buildings in the district, and elementary teachers have joined in on classrooms here at the middle school, as well as allowed us to sit in on some pieces of some lessons at some elementary schools. And listening on those reflective conversations has been awesome, just to hear how excited that they are. And then it's always kind of nice from our end to hear some of the elementary teachers talk about how much growth that student that they had in their class 2 years ago, they can't believe that they were sitting and writing all that they were writing, or speaking in front of the class. So it's really, really neat. As well as each week, I take time this year to dedicate directly to hear from our students, and I ask them the 4 questions that you see there. This is an opportunity I like to give to students, they don't know it, but to pause and reflect about their daily experience at school, and then selfishly, it's a time for me to hang out with our incredible students. It does take a little convincing at the start to assure them they're not in trouble, but once they get the first question out of the way, they really ease into it. And I've never had a student that couldn't come up pretty quickly with a response to any of those 4 questions. At the end of each week, I do share the students' responses. They don't know who the students are. I talk to at least one from each grade level with the teachers, just so they also get a glimpse into those conversations and how students are feeling throughout the day here at River Trails Middle School.
These questions also help us kind of get an idea of the pulse of the building, of the students, of the teachers, any areas that we might need to kind of tap into a little bit more, any areas to celebrate as well. We know that along with the rigorous instruction, we need students to feel safe in our building. And those questions are one example of ways that we help to make sure that our students are feeling safe and open to learning. Strong teacher and student relationships remain at the forefront of our work, and we have been finding numerous ways to do that, both in our extracurriculars that we've kind of talked about a little bit tonight with our music department and our sports, but also within the building as well. So a couple examples of that are with our Rethink curriculum during our advisory time. that continues to be community building, SEL instruction, and time for teachers and students to really connect and build up that community that we so value. Teachers also are finding new ways to connect. We have a teacher who every Friday joins our self-contained classroom to join in their games and their activities during their brain break. And it is just such a fantastic time for our self-contained students to learn that communication skills and that that problem-solving skills or whatever we are working on with other adults in the building. And it's just been really great to see some of those relationships foster that may not have had that opportunity. We also had another teacher go into one of our English learner classrooms and do a read aloud on a book and then talk about that content and how it connects to their lives. So these teachers, and I mean there's countless other examples, but these teachers are taking time out of their day, but they are seeing that come back at tenfold, and they are seeing that impact in their classroom and with those students as well, because they know if they take the time out to focus on the students in their element, the students are going to show up for them in their classroom as well. We are also focusing on executive functioning skills, much like the elementary as well. But what we are doing here at the middle school is taking those foundational skills and those teacher-directed learning and really shifting it more towards student-driven and their opportunity to be able to demonstrate those skills, hopefully independently. We are working with first teacher training because we know that we need our teachers to be confident in teaching these skills and to foster these skills in our students. We've worked side by side with NSSEO coaches and really adapting the work that the elementary schools have been doing to meet our needs here at the middle school. We're kind of pulling back that direct support and promoting the student autonomy. Teachers are now incorporating executive functioning skills into daily lessons, daily activities, and student learning experiences are being impacted, kind of like how Kyle was talking about a little bit earlier. Students are able to now demonstrate these skills in a variety of different ways. So tonight, Kyle and I touched on academic rigor, teacher and student relationships, executive functioning skills, and we recognize that these three areas, along with the countless other things that we do on a daily basis, really work to create a solid foundation for our students so that in the 3 short years that they start middle school and then head off into high school, we're giving them a good background for career readiness and life satisfaction in whatever capacity that looks like. Any questions?
Anybody have any? Well, I do. Well, actually, it's really a comment. Having a student in high school at Hersey, I can't hear it often enough from their staff that our middle schoolers come to high school most prepared out of all the other feeder districts and feeder schools. So again, I can't hear that enough. I beam with pride, and that makes it feel fantastic. So thank you for that. Obviously, when you say that you're doing things within other buildings, which is great, and the obvious connection is the middle school with the elementary school, but do you guys make a connection with Prairie Trails as well? And if so, what is that?
So we haven't yet, keyword yet. The connection with the 2 elementary schools kind of just happened organically. It wasn't even anything that's planned, but that has sparked that wonder of how we can also connect with Prairie Trails as well.
Okay. Awesome. And then the only other question I have, and are you also asking those questions, or is it just Mr. Henkel? And if it is just him, that's fine.
So far, just me, yeah.
Great. So my question is, obviously you're learning a lot about the students, which is awesome. What are you learning about yourself?
That's a great question, and maybe I need to ask myself some questions to sit and reflect on that as well. Like I said, so far this is something new that I started this year, so it really just been enjoying hearing from the kids. And like I said, I was anticipating some of them would struggle with answering a few of the questions, because mainly the students get, and I'm guilty of it as a parent myself, is how was your day? With school, what'd you do at school? And instead putting a little bit more thought into them. And the one I was nervous about is what's something that made you smile at school this week? And I've never had a student even say, can we come back to that? So just making sure that there are, because everybody's unique, opportunities that we're providing students for all of them to at least smile once a day somewhere, whether it be friends or a teacher or a club, continuing to lean into those things.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Anybody else?
I don't necessarily have a comment or a question, but a comment. And very similarly, I love the questions that you're asking the students, and I could just see the impact that would make because of the fact that our student population, I'm sure, when they hear coming to your office, I mean, I know I was frightened when I got called into your office on the many occasions, but I would assume that. Is there any way, even just for reflection, capturing some of that information, I just think would be so impactful, even just for students to know that their actual feedback was not only heard by you, but really impactful in the community. I love the idea, and I took notes on that, and just I can't imagine how impactful it would be, but I just see that opening so many doors for communication, especially for these kids that are just in that, we're learning how to fly and have that independence. I just absolutely love that idea.
We're actually asking the same questions. I have every response saved throughout this school year, so we're trying to decide other valuable avenues that these responses can lead us down.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much. Great presentation. Okay, next up is Chromebook refresh. Alicia, you have the floor.
Thank you, everyone. Just for your information, this is one of our new staff Chromebook Plus devices. So it's actually can be turned into a tablet. So it's kind of neat. I just thought I would use that and explain that to you. This is similar to what I've come to you with the last 2 years. This is our annual refresh of first and fifth grade Chromebooks for students. So as of 2 years ago, we began purchasing touchscreen Chromebooks for all students, and so we're getting closer. I think it might be 2 more years of the cycle until all students will have a touchscreen device. But they've been extremely popular, both from teachers and parents, I think you mentioned, and students as well. So we're planning to just continue down that road. I was delighted that CDW, which you can see on the memo, had the lowest price again, but they kept their price exactly the same to the cent from last year, which I was pretty surprised about. You can see that they're the only ones that do have a shipping cost, but their structure is just different. They charge shipping, but the price per device is a lot lower than the others. Anyone have any questions?
I'll make a comment. That's a great price, and the cost of memory in particular has just skyrocketed lately, and I'm kind of surprised they'd honor that price.
I was concerned. A couple of other vendors said it's going to be more expensive this year, so I was thrilled that CDW was able to keep the same pricing.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. And next up is the 26-27 school calendar. Dr. Mayer.
Yep. All right. So we talked a little bit about this last month, and so we're bringing this forward for a final vote tonight. It's a pretty standard, more traditional calendar than we've had from the last couple of years, getting back to August 17th start date for the teachers and students coming on Wednesday. The usual institute days and a couple holidays in between. Don't think I need to read all the details to you, but do you guys have any specific questions about the calendar?
When, I didn't see graduation on there, or do we not know that yet?
Not yet. I'm sure it's reserved, but it's not on. No, not for next year. Usually we reserve that shortly after the school year starts or early in the summer.
Okay, that's why I didn't see it. Makes sense. Thank you. Any questions, anybody?
I guess maybe my question is for the following 27, 28. You think that's probably the last change in dates, and then from that point forward, it'll be more or less consistent?
Yeah, I mean, and I think in our discussion with the TLC committee is that our goal was to get to a calendar that would be most consistent. So even with looking at the holidays, which ones of these holidays don't move? You know, they're not this date this year and this date this year. So I think we've settled on something that would be pretty tight. So not a lot of changes, in short, moving forward.
So next year's calendar would reflect this one, or be starting slightly earlier and then more or less looks the same? Just a curiosity question.
I would say would probably be right around the same timeline. Leap year, Good Friday, sometimes those days influence the calendar by a few days. And so depending on whether we would want to start a week earlier or a week later, sometimes those days influence that timeline. So I would say it wouldn't be much earlier than this, but we'd still be in this this sort of bubble.
Okay. Just wanted, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, let me entertain a motion and a second to approve the 2026-2027 school calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Friedland, second by Pfister. Comments or questions? Okay, please call roll.
Camardo?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
Yes.
Pfister?
Yes.
Grimpy?
Yes.
Bianchini?
Yes.
Friedland, yes. Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is business services. Mr. Berry, you and Joe, Mr. Lightfoot, sorry, have the floor. Take it away.
Now present Mr. Lightfoot.
Thank you for having me tonight to go over the fiscal year 25 financial results. If I can have any success. A little bit about the agenda for tonight. I'll be going over the 2025 audit deliverables, which include the audited financial statements and the reporting and insights letter. Talk a little bit about the engagement team, and then this says open discussion at the bottom, but really it's, if you have any questions at any point, feel free to stop me. I'll be going over at a high level, and there'll be some page numbers on the screen, there'll be some numbers on the screen. I wasn't planning on digging into the details, but if you see something you want to go into, we'll happy to do that. Thank you. I got a feeling that somebody else is clicking that, but okay. So the audit deliverables, the annual comprehensive financial report, the ISB's annual financial report on their report form, the reporting and insights from the audit, which is our audit communications to the board and management, and then these last two, the report on federal awards and the consolidated year-end financial report. Those two are a bit delayed. The federal government gives us the rules in which we follow when we do the federal audits, the audit of your federal awards. They were late in finalizing those rules, so we did when we were out here doing field work. We did what we thought they would have us do, and then now we got to circle back and make sure we did everything right now that everything's finalized. It's not due until March 31st, so in the next month and a half we'll have that completed and done on time. Along with the audit, we do provide some non-audit services. So we help prepare the annual comprehensive financial report. We propose adjusting and conversion journal entries. We prepared the annual financial report, the ISB report, the schedule of federal awards, the auditing section of the data collection form, which is just another way that the federal award report gets packaged to the federal government. We also assisted with some capital asset and modified accrual balance compilations, and then the IRA tax credit assistance a little bit there too. I say this just so that you're aware of other things that we help the district with. We remain independent by not providing any, making any management decisions. We provide information to management. They're ultimately responsible for anything that we do and take responsibility and understanding of what we've done. So I'll go into the audited financial statements. A little bit about the financial highlights. We've once again issued a clean or unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements. It's the highest level of assurance you can get from your outside auditors. States that the information within is reasonable in all material respects and can be reasonably relied upon by an outside user of the financial statements. Again, this is an annual comprehensive financial report, so this document has more information than what is required under accounting standards. It provides some narrative information at the beginning and the transmittal letter that talks about the district, more in depth about the district and some of your policies. And in the back, there's some 10-year trend information. So you can see really where the district has gone the last 10 years and try to give you that trend information to help you make just more educated decisions and provide more transparency to the readers. I always like to point out the management's discussion and analysis. This is on page Roman numeral 17. I should have wrote that out phonetically so I could do that easier, but anyway. So this is the story behind the numbers. So if you were to if you had 10, 15 minutes and you wanted to know what happened to the district and financial results, this is where I would tell you to go. It's got condensed financial information, but then it's got management's analysis of what happened during the year, comparison to prior years. So, what were some of the financial highlights? This is where you would go to get those, to get that understanding. A couple of pages in the report, pages 1 and 2, this is the only place during the year where you see all of the district's funds and assets and liabilities in one spot over 2 pages. The first one, the statement of net position, this is the balance sheet. This has all of your assets, your buildings, but it also has your long-term debt. So it is really this long-term focus. It ends in what is called net position. And really what you look at is net position over time. Is it increasing or decreasing? And this year, net position increased by about $4.5 million. It was due to some controlled spending. We'll see a little bit about this fund level information in a minute. Continued favorable interest rates. Interest revenue was good again this year. The bonds that were issued were spent on capital assets. When you issue bonds, that lowers your net position. When you spend it on capital assets, that raises. So it kind of is a wash if you borrow and you spend everything. So those two kind of went hand in hand. And then the spend down of prior issued bonds, that helps your net position go up. And then this THIS OPEB liability, this is from a few years ago where the state kind of changed their calculation and their estimate for what was your portion of this OPEB liability, this other post-employment benefit liability. Over the past few years, you've been seeing net position increase because of this, and it should be a couple more years that it'll keep this increase. Again, a long-term focus in not necessarily what you're spending or impacting your day-to-day spending, but this long-term perspective of the district's finances. Going into some of the more short-term focus, so pages 3 and 4 and 6 and 7, this is a fund level financial information. It's very short-term focused. So any current liabilities, so if you have an invoice that is due, that is for work due in June, you pay it in July, that's a short-term liability. Or if you have a receivable, so some state says they owe you some money and they pay you in July, that comes back as a receivable. There's nothing really long-term on here, it's really current inflows and outflows. The governmental funds income statement, the fund balance increased by about $0.9 million. This was really attributed to the operating fund surplus of about $5 million, offset by spending on capital projects in the capital projects fund. That fund went down by about $4.2 million. And then the debt service fund, it went up a little bit. So really, the operating funds did well. As they have been in the past. The capital projects fund is spending down your bond proceeds that you've issued in the past and in the current year. The operating funds, and when I say that, that's the Ed Fund, operations and maintenance, IMRF, and transportation. Those funds, you had about 14.3 months fund balance and expenditures, so in savings. So if the federal government, if your federal funding changes, or should the county be late in providing you property taxes, it gives you some cushion to be able to kind of stay afloat. This is, the next slide is the governmental funds income statement. I don't know how well you can see that, but on the far right columns is your total balance. The very bottom right corner is your $900,000 increase in fund balance. There is a comparison to the prior year if you wanted to see how these totals changed over time. So the annual financial report through ISB, they take your financial information and they have metrics that they think are important and they turn it into your financial profile score. This year you're at a 3.7, which is recognition status. It's the highest status level you can get. It's out of 4. Prior year was just a little bit higher, 3.8. The issuance of the long-term debt kind of brought that down. One of the key metrics is the amount of debt you have. It's your only non-4 scale. As you pay down debt without issuing more debt, it'll go back up to 4 and you'll be fine, as long as the other metrics stay the same. I will pause for a second. That's the last of the financial numbers that I had. Before I get on to the non-financial report from us, are there any questions on the financial numbers? Okay. So the reporting and insights letter is our non-financial highlights, and it satisfies a few different auditing standards, things that we're required to report to the board and management on an annual basis. First is our responsibilities, which is to express the opinion on the financial statements and to look at internal controls over financial reporting during that process. Management's responsibilities is to prepare and fairly present the financial statements, financial information, to establish and maintain effective internal controls over financial reporting, compliance with laws and regulations, and then the compliance with the requirements described in the compliance supplement. Those are the federal regulations that you're required to follow, and then provide us with written representations at the conclusion of the audit. Those representations are a handful of pages in the back of the report, and you can see kind of what we ask of management and what they told us is really, they provided everything we asked for, is really what that letter really comes down to. Some of the qualitative aspects of accounting practices. There were no changes in accounting policies. The accounting estimates were reasonable. Financial statement disclosures were neutral, consistent, and clear. There were no difficulties in performing the audit. We did have a material audit adjustment to record the interfund transfer between the Ed Fund and Capital Projects Fund. The board had approved it. We helped record that as a part of the audit financial statements. There were some past adjustments. So these are immaterial adjustments that were not presented into the financial statements. One of them being IMRF. This is really, IMRF gets audited, and then before that, they provide estimates to their actuary to calculate your net pension liability. They do that, they provide these estimates so we can get the report earlier, so your financial statements can get issued. Then when they get audited, sometimes there's variances between your net position in one report to the other. So this really says there's a difference. This is your estimate of it. It's really an estimate that we can't really run through the financial statements, so it kind of sits on these past adjustments. It's common with all of our audits that this occurs. Also, the market value adjustment at the Treasury, they calculate an estimate. We get that kind of late on in the process, so if it's immaterial, we just kind of keep running it through. So your investments are more on the cost basis than they are on the market value. And then we happened to find an immaterial accounts payable from last year that wasn't recorded. Again, immaterial, but required to disclose that. There were no disagreements with management, no consultations with other accountants. The management representation letter, as I mentioned, has been provided. No other significant issues or other audit issues discussed in the normal course of business. New accounting pronouncements that are coming up in future years, effective for fiscal year 26, GASB 103 and 104, and then after that is GASB 105 on subsequent events. This first one, GASB 103, will change the management's discussion and analysis that I mentioned at the beginning. It'll change kind of, right now there's a lot of boilerplate language in there. Really going to get rid of a lot of that and make it even more discussion based on financial results and management's story about what happened in the financial numbers. So it'll take a little bit more work, but it'll be good changes. Just make more transparency and better information in that report. The rest will help the district go through all these standards as we have in the past, and they shouldn't be a big deal, but we will show them when we go over those audit results in future years. Internal control matters. When we start the audit, we look at internal controls or financial reporting. We do not necessarily provide an opinion on the effectiveness of the internal controls, but if something comes to our attention that we feel the board should be aware of that could potentially result in a material statement of the financial statements, or just something we feel the board should know about, we are required to report these in this letter. We do have a repeat comment around financial reporting, since we help assist the district in preparing the financial statements, and really the expertise that the finance office is doing the day-to-day recording of the district's transactions, not keeping up on all the new accounting standards and exactly how they get implemented into the annual comprehensive financial report. We do have a new comment this year around bank reconciliations, and it does result in really comparing the district's records to what the Treasury has, their balances, and just kind of reconciling those a little bit better and making adjustments where necessary. Sometimes you make adjustments, then there's a delay in getting it to the treasurer and vice versa. So just making sure that those are reconciled more timely and more kind of completely as we get to the year-end audit. Finally is our contact information. We work with management to perform the audit. We ultimately work for the board. Should you have, not just when I'm up here on an annual basis, but anytime during the year, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk through anything that you would like to discuss in relation to the audit. We're at your disposal should you need us. This information is also at least my information is at the beginning of the audit results letter, so you have that too. With that, any questions on the audit process or results?
The only question I had, I guess it's more for the district team. Do we now have somebody who's going to do the bank reconciliation on a regular basis? Or are we working on that?
Yeah, we put in a new hard procedure to make sure that those reconciliations, we were doing our own bank reconciliations and then making adjustments, but some of those just weren't getting either sent or captured by the treasurer, and vice versa. Yes, there's now a new procedure to make sure.
So the procedure that we're putting in place will be sufficient for our next audit, per se?
Yes.
Great.
Should be. It better be. Yeah.
It's the only question I had. Anybody else?
Yeah. Are there any third parties involved, other third parties other than Baker Tilly with the audit throughout the year from an operational basis? Just like an outside accountant that you throw questions at or have?
No, I'd say the only other outside firm is the one who does a lot of our, I want to say OPEB, but our GASB 68 stuff, all of our, what's the right term?
You hire an actuary to work on the other post-employment benefit liabilities.
But yeah, I mean, any accounting, if it's not school related, like, actual school related, and it's like accounting or how do I mark this, I either call Joe or Emma or Sebastian and make sure that we're on the same page so that when they do come and audit it, it's accurate and it gives them enough information at the end of the year. So they really are the board's auditors. They work directly with me and the team, but they do report to the board, and as Mr. Lightcap mentioned, it's really for you guys. So
okay, and you've got the appropriate amount of labor and resources to continue on all of this in a great fashion here. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
That's it. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. All right, let me entertain a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 25 comprehensive annual financial report. Motion by Griffey.
Second.
Second by Ronstadt. Any comments or questions before we call the roll? Okay, Mrs. Friedland, could you please call roll?
Ronstadt,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Friedland, yes. Pfister,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Grimpy,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. All right, next up is the fiscal year 27 budget timeline. Mr. Barry, you have the floor.
This should look very standard as in previous years. The past previous months, we were really focusing on the levy, moving into student fees, and now is kind of the time of year we start actually looking at staffing and budget numbers for next year. Obviously, staffing is the largest part of the budget. Looking forward, there are certain requirements for RIF in the spring, so now's the time to start looking at that, compiling it, and then over the next few months, we'll be meeting with finance, and then that will lead to a preliminary budget report and more future projections, and kind of the same timeline year after year.
Fun. What would you do without it, right? Don't answer that. Next up is committee updates. Policy Committee, Mrs. Friedland, you are our chair.
Yes, prior to the meeting tonight, we met to discuss the new policy packet that had come out. There weren't a ton of updates in terms of substance, but there were a lot of updates in terms of notes and footnotes and just any laws that went into effect or any of the legislation that went into effect 1/1/26. Everything had to be updated in order to account for those pieces of legislation taking effect. So there were a considerable list. I'm sure that everyone will be able to go ahead and see on the policy meeting agenda. But probably the biggest points, just reviewing some of the pieces that we had for one was, I'm so sorry, just for instructional materials, and then for adding different information just for our students and for our staff, some about evaluation and some just for some of the SEL pieces. But the other piece that we talked about just at the end was for future topics for our committee, and now that Mount Prospect and I think most of the surrounding villages have put out a statement about e-bikes and other motorized individual personal transportation vehicles, I don't even know what to call it, transportation, to revisit that idea of how we are going to kind of take that language that the district had pushed out and form it into an actual policy that carries a little more weight. So we will come back to that. Does anyone have any questions? Wonderful. Again, it's all posted out there too, so definitely read it. It'll be posted into, we'll go ahead and approve those for the policy updates in the next consent agenda. So please, if you have any questions, you can definitely ask them at our next meeting.
Thank you. Next up is our Benefits Committee. Mr. Ronstadt and Mrs. Johnson, you guys are the representatives. Who wants to take it?
Okay, yeah, we had I think a very productive meeting, and as Bob said, it is very cooperative endeavor to figure out how best to utilize our available resources for benefits, and I think we had some great conversations and some good ideas around, really just trying to maximize use and minimize cost. So, but I especially want to thank Bob for his, real understanding of the benefits and the position here, and it is a very collaborative environment, engagement, and it's especially appreciative when you're knowledgeable about the topic. So, thank you.
Mrs. Johnson, do you want to add anything, or are we good to go?
Okay.
Awesome.
And thank you, Ryan, for putting all the work in there.
All right, next up is the President's Report. Let's see, we've got district news and board meeting dates. We have the Euclid School concert, the 4th and 5th grade concert on the 15th at 6:45. We're going to have brewing with the board later in January, and Dr. Megley is working on a location and time. We've got the EdRed Legislative Dinner meeting on January 26th at 5 p.m., and that has to be RSVP'd. I believe Brad Schneider, Representative Brad Schneider, has been announced as the keynote speaker. So if you're interested, please let Patty know so she can RSVP for you. We have the Shining Stars Gala for the Village of Mount Prospect, and that's on February 7th at 6 p.m. And so far, those that have RSVP'd to Patty is Donna, myself, and Mrs. Friedland. I think the deadline is like the 16th or something, so it was a couple days. Let's pretend it was the 15th, just to be on the safe side. So but it's coming up, so if you're interested in attending, please let Patty know. We've got our second Civic Connections meeting. That's on February 9th at 4:30 p.m. at the Mount Prospect Public Library. What it is just public officials of the Village of Mount Prospect. We're just kind of thrown in the room, and it's an opportunity to meet each other and bounce ideas off each other and network. The last one, Donna and I attended. The mayor and the village board was there. District 57 was there. Both park districts were there. I think that's about it. I mean, obviously the library board was there.
They served great treats.
They did have great treats, absolutely. They were fantastic. But it was really nice. It was very laid back. They had some kind of networking games for us to play if we needed them, and this group didn't need them. It was all, you throw a bunch of type A personalities in that room, and you know, we don't need any icebreakers. We're good. But since the next one's coming up, it's on February 9th at 4:30. If your schedule allows, it'd be great to see you there. Next up is the State of the Village, which is a presentation by the mayor, obviously talking about the state of Mount Prospect. That's on February 19th at 8 a.m. That's at the Country Club. No, not Rob Roy. That's at Old Orchard Country Club off of Rand and 83. So, but that has to be RSVP'd as well, so please let Patty or Dr. Megley know so we can get you on that. Then we have our next meeting on February 10th at 7 p.m. We will be at Indian Grove. And then we also have Dr. Megley's evaluation on February 17th. And I'd like to just throw it out to the board. What time would you like to meet? Would you want to make this a working meeting with dinner? Or we just want to meet after we have an opportunity to have our own dinners? What do you guys want to do?
I vote earlier the better.
How early?
I'm available anytime after 5. Do not do that.
What does everybody think?
Sorry, what date?
February 17th.
I have NSSEO negotiations that night, so I'll be tied up from 4 till about 7.
I'm out of town.
Right. Did anybody read my email that I sent out? That had this date on there and nobody commented? All right. Yeah, well, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board then and figure out another date, I guess.
We can send out a doodle.
Okay.
See what works for everyone.
Okie doke. We'll send out a doodle.
Can't wait.
Yeah, that on your bingo card that I'd be saying the word doodle tonight. There you go. That's it for me. Next up is Superintendent's Report. Dr. Megley, you are up.
Excellent. Let's get some microphone. All right. So for this month's Superintendent Report, I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the work from the cabinet that's been going on this year. And I've recently wrapped up our mid-year evaluation meetings, which is really a nice opportunity for me and the cabinet members to really just reflect on the goals that we talked about at the beginning of the year. Think about, you know, where we've come, is there any pivots necessary, and it's always a nice time to just pause in the work months and see how their work is going. And so I didn't include the business office in this because you hear from Ryan's department regularly. I typically don't report on behalf of the entire cabinet, but I've consolidated the updates pretty succinctly. So if you have any questions at the end when I'm finished, obviously the team is here. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions about their work. So it's really just high level updates from cabinet. So as you heard already tonight, which I love when people lay the foundation for me, we began this year anchored in that mindset of open the door. And so we were really working towards creating a culture where instructional work is visible, it's collaborative, and it's responsive. I've been asking my leaders to be visible because I think visibility builds trust, it helps elevate practice, and it reinforces that teaching and learning are the center of everything that we do. So this has supported our district goals nicely so far this year. Obviously, we have leading from the classroom, which is something that I've wanted all of our leaders to be present in classrooms, meaning buildings, team classrooms, instructional classrooms, whole group Thursday classrooms. And so I wanted everybody to know, what does it look like across the district firsthand? Last year in our mid-year meetings, we talked about this concept of like, you know, Christy does pilots and Carrie had a new SEL curriculum, but how do we get deeper ingrained in the work instead of just telling our building principals like, okay, pilot's done, here you go, it's all you. Like, how are we continuing to be all hands on deck? And so leading from the classroom really supports that work on a deeper level. Goal number 2, as we continue to focus on sustaining our systems, spiraling back with purpose, and intentionally returning to that work from previous years. Again, just to make sure that we are clear, we are consistent, and that our well-intentioned focused areas don't get lost over time. And so those are really the areas that obviously we have been working on. The buildings are also in that direction. And so it's been great so far this year. Really pleased. All right. Looking at teaching and learning. So if we look at the work under Christy's purview, first of all, the slide format is really on the top there is just summarizing the work in a very short abbreviation, and then some key examples of supporting that work. So Christy's purview really is best described as a continuous cycle of strategic refinement. She has some of the same things that she does every year. You know, every year you guys can expect a pilot. Every year you can expect a curriculum audit. And so her work follows this consistent annual rhythm, professional development, instruction, but she has never allowed those processes to become stagnant. And I think over the last couple of years, and this year especially, she's treated each year as an opportunity to reflect on her progress that she's made, the systems that she's put in place, and really make high leverage shifts. So this year, some of the things that she has done to enhance the pilots. One is integrating the classroom walkthrough. So typically going into the pilot classrooms with a team of people and seeing how those pilots and those demo lessons unfold hadn't been part of the process. And so I think she started dabbling in it last year, and now it's become more consistent. And so again, that gives firsthand live feedback on the materials and how teachers are using those. She has really been more strategic with the vendor partnerships. She knows exactly what she wants from each of these vendors that we're working with, and really not afraid to tell them how to make it work for us. And so, again, lessons learned over time, but maximizing the value of the PD beyond the pilots, and also maximizing the value of the training going into the pilots, really to be tailored to meet our needs. And I think, you know, some of those are little, but have really enhanced the collaboration and the you know, I think the connections just with the team. So, so that is just, you know, again, one ship that she has elevated. In terms of leading from the classroom, Christy has been in school improvement meetings with the principals. She's been at building leadership teams, and presence there is just a member. It's just an observer. But again, it allows to see connections and work over time that is happening in the building that better allows and bridges us us at district office with the work at the building. We can't fully support that if we don't know firsthand what's going on. She, this year, has also hosted monthly meetings with the middle school language arts team. So that was a pilot that was done last year. So to bridge that gap, monthly meetings are happening this year just to make sure that the pilot, everything's kicking off and things are, the launch is on task and things remain the way that she had envisioned it from the start. And then, again, collecting some of this pilot evidence, going through the instructional rounds and working with the coaches from various school districts in the area to talk about alignment. Spiraling back, Christy and Carrie continue to host what we call state interviews, which are 30, 90-day interviews with our new staff. We don't want them to start the year and then never talk to them again, or, we see them in the hallways, we see them in classrooms, but really to sit down with those staff and ask, how's everything going? Is the district the way that we described it would be? Is there anything you need? And so, again, we call those state interviews instead of people leaving and then you have an exit interview. Well, obviously it's too late at that time. So her current focus right now is continuing down the pilot roadmap, elementary language arts and middle school social studies. Language arts is on training for their second pilot and board recommendation coming in April. And social studies continues and they are narrowing vendors and board recommendation coming in March. So I think, again, looking at strengthening systems in Christy's lens, I think those recommendations will be much stronger and more confident just because of the check-ins and the coaching and all the elevated work that she's done this year. So, any questions for Christy before we move on to student services?
I'd like to just make a comment. Christy, have her put this entire thing as your evaluation for this year. Because that's what she just did, evaluated you, and yeah, you do an awful lot for the district. And I'm sure the next two are going to be the same.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No.
But, again, like coming off of the mid-year evaluations, these are just some of the things that we talk about. Like, what are you proud of this year? What do you feel like has changed in your workflow? And again, I thought it was just a nice time to highlight that with you guys. I mean, we can sit and be compliant and go over goals and say, hey, you're doing a good job, but I'm always trying to grow the people in my cabinet and people I'm working with also and help them meet their goals. So moving on to student services. If I was to, again, summarize Carrie's work, I think it's centered on the idea that special ed leadership can't happen just from an office. We know that the needs of the students are constantly and rapidly changing. And so Carrie's work is constantly evaluating both the programs and the personnel, just to make sure that the needs of the students are being met and that she has the staffing and the staff feel supported in that work. So I think by opening the door, especially with these specialized settings that we work with, she's really moved from that high-level oversight to really active evaluation, ensuring that programming shifts happen when they need to, not in response to a crisis or 3 years too late. And so that's really been the core of her work this year. So in terms of leading from the classroom, Carrie's spending more time with assistant principals, spending time shadowing them during the day just to see what their days look like, for being able to provide in-the-moment coaching for them. She has brought elementary special educators together so that they can, one, bridge the gap between their work, share work, and also ensure consistency across the district. She spends a lot of time at our partner schools, so and are very familiar with our NSSEO programs, but we also have a deaf and hard of hearing program in Arlington Heights, and we also have one student placed at Keshet, which is a school outside of NSSEO. And so I know when I visit NSSEO, I see Carrie there in the classrooms. But again, that gives her a very firsthand look on the progress that our kids are making It helps her build relationships with the staff and have very candid conversations. And it also gives her first-hand knowledge of when kids are ready to reintegrate to District 26. And that is very important for us, is to have a smooth integration. And so some of the things that she has worked on spiraling back is, again, it's evaluation, but it's monitoring that we have a full continuum of services and supports. And that gets a little tricky in our district. You know that we opened up a self-contained program at Euclid a number of years ago. We got to see those kids in action. I don't know, was that last month? That seemed like a long time ago. But making sure that that program is consistently meeting the needs of our district population. But once those kids age into middle school, it becomes a little bit different of a program, and making sure that as kids are getting older, that program is still meeting their needs, or we even have a program here to meet their needs. So that is ongoing, and making sure that the outplacement is the right placement. So a lot of work making sure that continuum consistently meets the needs of our students. I think also one thing to note is that we work with St. Emily's School. We provide some resources and support to St. Emily's. And with the closing of several other schools, they've taken on 80 more students, which is pretty significant. Obviously, we don't serve them all, but revamping some of the systems that have been in place needed to be revamping, just to make sure that we were working, seamlessly with St. Emily. And again, just resource allocation, making sure we have the resources, the caseloads are manageable for the staff, and that we're planning for students aging up or coming from kindergarten into the elementaries and so on. So currently she's working on an external program audit, partnering with NSSEO to do a formal audit to just get that outside view on how to improve our service model, our continuum. So I think that's exciting. I look forward to seeing the results of that. She has also spent time observing some other programs in other districts, again, just to get a different view outside of River Trails. So I think the audit combined with these visits will help us be as efficient and supportive as we can. That's Carrie's work. Is it weird that I'm talking about you and you're sitting right there? Sorry. Any questions for Carrie?
Good job.
It'd be weirder if it was bad.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Moving into technology and innovation, summarizing Alicia's work this year. You heard from her last year. She presented her vision for tech and innovation in District 26, and she's been working on implementing this long-term vision of freedom, flexibility, reliability, engagement, and empowerment. And so, now that our facilities have gone through their renovations and provided a nice foundation for some new technology and innovation in the classroom, I think the majority of Alicia's work is really spiraling back to make sure that that vision continues to live. You can't just implement a vision and then never monitor it. And so that's been a majority of where she set her sights this year, making sure that the training for the panels had been enough for the staff, that there were summer trainings, that there are trainings before school. She spends time on Thursdays in buildings at all of our buildings. And most recently, she has been leading a district-wide book study of the anxious generation for over 70 staff members. So that has been nice in facilitating some conversation about technology, blessings, impact on student well-being. And so Alicia has also gotten feedback from the staff this year, specifically with the panels. And so just a couple of data stats. There was a high user satisfaction, 86% of the staff rated the panels as either good or excellent. Strong preference over the old technology. About 77% of the users stated that they would not want to go back to using a projector. So that's good feedback. Teachers highlighted the display quality. There's definitely no glare, as there was on the shiny whiteboards that we used for the projectors. So that that has given teachers, I think, they enjoy that, one of the highest ratings. Instructional efficiency, they really like that the panel is a standalone device so they can work from the panel instead of having to continually report back to a laptop or be connected to the wall in the corner of the room. And then in terms of the training, 89% of the respondents felt like they have already received sufficient professional development to use the plans effectively. So again, just starting the year with another building who's only a few months in, we're really excited about that data. So again, continuing to monitor that work has really been Alicia's task this year. Along with spiraling back, you heard her talk about cybersecurity a little bit last year, and so her team has been working hard on an incident response plan. So if something was to happen, what is the response as far as the team in locking that down? Recently, there was a school district in the northern suburbs by me that was out of commission, no school, for at least 3 days because of a cybersecurity attack. So this reliability, making sure that our systems are protected and that they're reliable, like we can actually come to school, is obviously a big part of that work. So some of the leading from the classroom, a couple of other highlights. Every year, Alicia's team and committee puts out ed tech grants. And so there's been a nice shift this year where it has traditionally been screen-based tools that teachers have asked for. And now they've really moved towards hands-on makerspaces, STEM activities. So that's telling me that the staff is really getting more comfortable moving away from a very scripted program on the computer and allowing kids to be more creative. So that's super exciting, and we're looking forward to see how that transitions in the classroom. And then Indian Grove and Euclid are hosting Techno Nights, January 15th and February 4th. So that's the first ever Techno Night where really we're opening the door also now to the families to come in and be able to see our work in the technology domain. So that's some of Alicia's work this year. There was a request to just give another brief update on the strategic plan. So this is where we're at in the whole process. On the 20th of this month, which is a week from today, we are going to be bringing back our data team, which is all admin and a couple of board member reps, and we're going to be pulling apart the focus group data, the survey data, and looking at it separately and then looking at it together with the hopes of identifying priorities and goals before we leave that session. And so that is exciting that we are moving along. These are the stakeholder groups. Becky referenced her part with the community, and so we'll be looking at feedback from the students, feedback from the staff and educators, and also the parents and families. And so we're moving along the roadmap, again, hoping to leave that with these goals assigned, and then goal leads will take that work and then work on the goals and continue to identify key priorities and more of the details and the meat of each of those goals after that meeting. Thank you.
Any comments or questions?
Well, I just want to comment on the efficiency and how great of a cabinet you have and employees that we have. You guys listening to this, it's like, what did we do to deserve?
Yes. I asked myself
Ryan, you're in there too. So, but she was overly praising of these three young ladies, and it was really nice. Thank you.
It was a great update.
And I do want to say, like, I appreciate, sometimes, like, if there are people that are not in the school district, I think it's hard to kind of go back and like connect these points and see like year over year, like how you were talking about spiraling back, kind of how they all are stranded and connected together. So I appreciate like the consistent relation back to the other people, like, because that helps me like understand exactly how you and your team are connecting all of these things. It's like a spider web of joy. So I mean, like, it's but it is neat to see because it's hard. It's otherwise hard to connect. And that's even, you know, like for people who are in education, sometimes I like lose track or get jumbled up, and so I appreciate this because it really helps like solidify the path the vision that you're going for and the path that you're taking. So thank you.
And the fact that this is televised, so the public gets to hear what you do, because to the public, you're just a title. You're a curriculum director, a technology director, a special ed director, a finance director. People don't really understand what you do behind the scenes to help keep the school district running smoothly and to help all of the staff members, all of them, be fulfilled in what they do here in the district, because they could very easily just come here and just clock in, clock out, clock in, clock out, but there's no, as you call it, joy. And you people really help. You really are doing a great service to the district.
Yeah, and I think you gave us a wonderful overview of their strategy and their intention. I'm sure you're doing a million other tasks. And as leaders, I think it's hard when you have a list of to-dos and tasks to be intentional and strategic, to make sure you're checking in, to make sure the investment in curriculums, the investment in technology is working out for people. It's easier to check that off and not go back. So thank you for doing that.
Anybody else? Bob, I think you had Spiderweb of Joy on your bingo card, didn't you? I didn't have it on mine. Man, I know. Next up is the NSSEO operations update.
Yes, so we had our first operational board meeting of the inaugural, I suppose. So we elected our officers. Mike Connolly from District 21 was voted in as president. Yours truly, vice president. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And Don Angelaccio from District 23 is the secretary. And so a couple of highlights from that meeting. Molly Dunn, who is amazing. She just gave an in-service day recap on the NSSEO offerings. So I put a couple of data points in there for you, because this day and all of us having this partnership, all of these districts working together, allows for 1,682 staff being registered for sessions that we would never be able to replicate on our own. And so that is just that student service domain of registration. So that's pretty amazing. But yeah, 25 different sessions, presenters flew in from 6 different states. So it was a pretty amazing day of learning. Just from there, they did some, NSSEO offered some department updates. So a quick staffing review for the upcoming year. We talked about the dates for extended school year at NSSEO and reviewed the fund balance that's coming back to District 26. And those were pretty much the highlights. We voted on our meeting calendar and passed that. And then as a future topic, we know that some kind of communication protocol needs to exist so that boards are getting consistent information. We don't want to replicate kind of like what happens at the governing board. Like all the members go home and tell their districts different things based on their interpretation. So I think we're gonna work at standardizing something so that all of the boards have some sort of operational report. And then we got an update on negotiations in a closed session. And that was it. Great meeting. Very efficient.
Thank you, Dr. Vice President.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. All right, next up, our policy communications to the board. We did have an email from one of our residents that was responded to back on December 12th. Next up is FOIA requests. We had 4 FOIA requests, which Ryan responded to all 4, so thank you very much. All that is in your board book. And next up is future topics. Does anybody have a pending topic they would like to bring up?
Did we? Yeah, we had a pending topic on the ice on school property, right?
Yep, I just have a quick update. I mean, with the timing of the last board meeting, and I was out of town, and Ryan was out of town, we don't have anything to share at this meeting. We did reach out to the attorney and a couple of attorneys because we knew that Lynn was having surgery, and so we're working on that, but just don't have anything really good for this meeting. Yep.
Does anybody have any other item they'd like to propose for future consideration?
So just on that one, we will have something by the next meeting. Unfortunately, there was an incident recently where a cadre of ICE agents entered a working school, and it was not good. It was up in Minnesota.
No other topics before we move on? Okay, then that brings us to closed session. We do have a closed session, but we will not have any action items after closed session. So let me entertain a motion in a second to go into closed session for the matters of personnel and negotiations at 8:21 p.m.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Friedland, second by Pfisterer.
Pfister?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Friedland, yes. Camardo?
Yes.
Bianchini?
Yes.
And Grimpy.
Yes. Okay, we'll go into closed session at 8:30. Everyone stretch your legs for a minute.
Are we seeing here?
How about 8:25?
Conference room?
No?